Okay, welcome to Exodus chapters 32 and 33. We are really moving along through the book of Exodus. And so I am, of course, we're going to be online. If you're watching, you're going to see this video, and the next one's going to be Exodus, whatever. But we are going to take a break here and go through the Easter kind of deal, talking about the Passion of Christ and the resurrection and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to do the Passover meal here. You're welcome to come if you're watching online. I put information on there. You can see when that is, and if you're in town, you can come to that. But we are in Exodus chapter 32 and 33 tonight. I want to go back real quick and just do a quick 2-minute synopsis. We have Moses, right? And he's born into a time where the new Pharaoh, the new king, didn't remember Joseph and the house of the Hebrews and the great things that they had done for the nation of Egypt. And so he gets put into the river, and he gets rescued by the Pharaoh's daughter, and she actually doesn't raise him. She says, "Hey, would you find a Hebrew mom to raise this child?" And his sister was like, "I know just the one." So it takes Moses back to his mom. And then after his kind of probably 8, 9, 10 years old, he goes and lives in the palace, and kind of he knows that he's Hebrew, but he's being raised by the princess in the Egyptian way. And it's not until he's later on, until he's about 40 years old, he's out there and seeing one of the slave captains, whatever, beating on a Hebrew guy, and he steps in and karate chops him or whatever he does, kills the Egyptian guy and saves the Hebrew guy. And he thinks, "Hey, I've saved the Hebrew guy." Now the Hebrew people see Moses probably as somebody who is got his foot in both camps. He's on the American side, but he's also on the Nazis. He's kind of they're like, "What are you doing, man? I appreciate you saving me, but really, who are you for, really?" And so, anyway, he takes off and he leaves and goes into the desert of northwest Saudi Arabia, to Midian. And there he interacts with the people there, and he finds a wife. And then he sees the mountain, which has been there the whole time. He sees a fire on it, and it's not consuming the bush, and it's not spreading. So he's like, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go see what that thing's about. And it's God in the bush, and he says, "Hey, go let the people go." And he was like, "You got the wrong guy here. I don't know who." And he's like, "No, it's you, and I want you to go do it." He's like, "Well, I really can't." "Okay, fine. I'll send your brother Aaron with you. He's already coming up the mountain to come visit with you. I'm already dealing with him." And so anyway, they go, and we got the plagues, right? "Let my people go." And he's like, "No, I won't let them go." And then there's this whole song and dance back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then finally they leave, and they've got this deal where they go through the Red Sea, and it parts open for the Hebrew people, and then it comes and crashes behind and covers over the Egyptian army and drowns them. And they're like, "Yay, we win!" And then, "Where's our water? I mean,
where's our bread?
Where's our bread? We're hungry. We would be much better off if we had been, just stayed in Egypt. At least we had food." And Moses is over there just like rubbing his temple like, "Oh man, what did I get myself into here?" And so they get to the foot of Mount Sinai, where God said, "Bring them back to this mountain to worship me." And so that's where we are. We're at the foot of the mountain, and he's already said, "Go wash everybody, get their best clothes on, and come to the foot of the mountain." And it was kind of like a wedding ceremony. You present yourself clean, and then there was like Exodus chapter 20, which is got kind of like the vows. Don't cheat on me. Don't make any graven images. The first 4 were how do you deal with God, and the bottom 6 were how do you deal with the people around you. And that's the kind of the vows that God was hoping that they would be able to live with. And then chapters 21 through 31 are talking about slaves are people. They have rights. Here's a mobile place to worship me. I want it to be built. These are the dimensions. Here's what I want you to make it out of. We talked about the possibility of it even having dolphin skins on the roof, which would be a weird thing. But we actually don't know from the translation exactly what it was. Possibility it was just ram skins or goat skins, but one of the translations says badger skins. One of the translations says porpoise or dolphin skins, which, okay, I mean, that's, it would make it waterproof, which makes sense to me, but who am I? And then we talk about building the Ark of the Covenant and the mercy seat on top. That it wasn't the seat of judgment, like the throne room. It's the mercy seat of how I'm going to meet with you. Remember, grace is getting what you don't deserve, and mercy is not getting what you do deserve. And so the mercy seat says, I'm not giving you what you do deserve. You deserve death. I'm going to be here with you, though. And then we see remember the menorah, the candelabra, and we have the table where they put the bread on, and they have the wash bin out front, and they've got the big barbecue pit, which is my favorite part. The big barbecue pit out front. And then he talked about, here's how you make the priestly robes and garments, and it's going to have all these gems and stones in there, and it's going to all be woven thread of scarlet, blue, and purple threads with white linen and a gold thread all in there. And so you can actually go to bradflight.com/Exodus. If you're watching online, you may have found this video through that website, but you can go back to chapters 29, 30, 28, 29, 30, somewhere around there. And you can see pictures of what that looks like. And basically to them, in the middle of the desert, it would look like a slice of heaven, right? So here we are. Moses has been up on the mountain for 40 days. 40 days is a hair under 6 weeks. 6 times 7 is 42. So 40 days. He's been in just a hair under 6 weeks. So, and if you'll also remember he took the elders of Egypt, and he took them up, of Israel, and took them up to a high spot on the mountain, and he said, stay here, I'm going to go up and talk to God. And then he came back to them and talked to them and talked to them, and then went back down to where the people were. Well, when he went back up at the beginning of that 40 days, Joshua was up there waiting. Joshua couldn't approach God up here, but Joshua was here on the plain of the elders is what it's called. It's like a flat spot up on the top of the mountain. Gone. So that's where we are. And so we can go to chapter 32 now. And I'm still reading from the Modern English Version. You're welcome to read from whatever version you want. Hopefully you read the Bible enough that you have a favorite version of the Bible. So chapter 32 is where we see a change in the narrative that's been happening for the past 10, 15 chapters. Now, when the people saw that Moses delayed coming down from the mountain, the people gathered themselves together around Aaron, his brother, who's supposed to be the high priest, right? And said to him, come, make us gods which will go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. So let's stop right there. We had the plagues. They didn't just say, okay, you're free to go. They said, here, take all of our stuff and get out now. Leave. They survived the parting of the Red Sea. They had water in the desert. They had quail to eat. They had manna to eat. They defeated the Amorites. The Amalekites. It's like all these things are happening, and yet they are literally saying, man, this guy, he's been gone. It's been 6 weeks. I guess maybe he didn't make it. It's thundering and lightning up on the mountain. Maybe God took him out. Yeah. So, Aaron, you're still here. How about let's do this whole worship thing? Come on. And so, let's go to verse 2. Aaron said to them, break off the gold earrings that are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me. So all the people broke off the gold earrings that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. And he received them from their hand and fashioned it with an engraving tool and made it into a molded calf. Then he said, "This is your God, O Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt." Pump the brakes. Hold on. They literally just came from the land of Israel. I mean, it's been months. We're not talking decades. It's been months. And they just took the earrings off, melted them together, and made this calf. We don't know exactly how big it was. It could be this big, or it could have been a life size. I don't know exactly how big it was. There's some possible examples I put on the website. You can see those. But it's interesting that immediately this Moses character, we're not so sure about this guy, even though all these things have happened.
He's part of the Red Sea.
Yeah. We saw all these miracles, but we don't know. We're not so sure about this guy. So you know what? Let's just make a golden calf here. And Aaron is his brother. I don't know if you have any brothers and like if y'all get along all the time, or maybe you got, you have some things. But Aaron is literally talking about his own brother. And he says, "This is your God, O Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt." That was literally Aaron's brother who did that. So Aaron is, Aaron's Moses' brother. And he's basically saying, my brother didn't do it. This golden calf, which I just made, is
now your God. He's the one that saved you.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, right?
No, the crazy part is they're like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Worship the God.
When Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it. So they made it, and he built an altar. And Aaron made a proclamation and said, "Tomorrow will be a feast to the Lord, to this creature." So they rose up early on the next day. Now, hold on a second. There's some context there. They rose up when on the next day? Early. What do you get up early for?
Special events.
Yeah. I'm going fishing. I'm going hunting. I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to go to the airport. I'm going to whatever.
They were excited.
They were excited. So they rose up early the next day to worship a golden cow. Are you I mean, you can definitely see here that there is some mental disconnect from what they've experienced and lived and what they came from. Because remember, they were in Egypt for 439 years, I think it was. They are effectively, not genetically, but effectively, they're Egyptian. The way they talk, the way they walk, the way they dress, the way they worship, the way they eat, they're Egyptian. Genetically, they're Hebrew. They're a line of Abraham. Does that make sense? But looking on the street, you'd never see them any different than anybody else. They might have a little more curly hair, or they might have a little more, whatever. But effectively, they're going to be the same. And here we see it. They're effectively Egyptian. And they rose up early on the next day and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink and rose up to play. They're having a good old time. You know what this sounds like, though? This sounds a lot like some of the Egyptian festivals when they were worshiping other gods. We just went through all these other pages that we just went through here, all talked about how you worship God and what sacrifices you bring and what clothes you wear. And here we see, in the matter of 6 weeks, they say, no, not going to do that. We are going to go back and do it the way we used to do it. So in verse 7 here, the Lord spoke to Moses. Moses is still up on the mountain. He says, "Go and get down for your people whom you brought out of the land of Egypt." Remember, look at God here. God says, your people who you brought out of the land. We just talked about in chapter 19 that now God's going to take them. Remember, the fourth promise is, I'm going to take you to be my people. So he's not saying my people. He says, Abraham, your people, who you brought out. So that tells you right now, God's not really excited about what's happening down at the bottom of the mountain. And he says, they have corrupted themselves. They have quickly turned aside from the way which I commanded them. They have made for themselves a molded calf. Who can tell me what's the first or second of the great commandments, of the 10 commandments that we're talking about?
Love the Lord your God.
Well, that's the greatest commandment that Jesus gave. But in Exodus chapter 20, it says, "Have no other gods besides me, and don't make any images. Don't carve or melt or do whatever to make other images." And so here we see Moses is gone for 6 weeks, and the first thing they do is break the first 2 commandments. And we're like, okay, I don't get it. They have quickly turned aside from the way which I commanded them. Verse 8, they have made for themselves a molded calf and have worshipped it and have sacrificed to it and said, "This is your God, O Israel, which has brought you up from the land of Egypt," which is total lie. Then the Lord said to Moses, "I have seen this people, and certainly it is a stiff-necked people." Now I'm going to talk about this for a second. We don't really live in an agricultural time and area here. We're in suburban Houston, and if you're watching online, you might be in an agriculture area. But the idea of having yoke for oxen, and they take a piece of lumber, and I've got a picture of it on the website here. But they have the yoke going across the oxen's necks, and that piece of wood holds them together. And so they have to walk in unison, side by side, to pull the cart or plow the ground or do whatever it is they're supposed to do. And this idea is, if this oxen is trying to go straight and this oxen is trying to go this direction, one of them is not doing the right thing. And so here we see God utilize this imagery when he says in verse 9, he goes, "The Lord said to Moses, I have seen this people, and certainly it is a stiff-necked people." So if you imagine, God is trying to mold them and train them in the new way to follow him, Yahweh, Jehovah, God. He's trying to get them to come this direction, and he's yoked himself with them at the bottom of the mountain. And he's like, okay, here we go, guys, here we go. But they are being stiff-necked. They're stiff-necked people. They're not following that plan. Does that make sense? They're a stiff-necked people. "Now, therefore, let me alone, so that my wrath may burn against them, and I may destroy them. And I will make of you a great nation." So he's still talking to Moses here. And he's saying, I'm going to just kill all of them. We'll just start over with you, Moses. You cool with that? But Moses sought favor of the Lord his God and said, "Lord, why does your wrath..." It's like he's talking him off the ledge. God, come on back from that ledge there. We're not going to jump off the ledge, are we? He says, "God, why does your wrath burn against your people?" Remember? God said, your people that you brought out. And what does Moses do here? He flips it back around. And he says in verse 11, "Lord, why does your wrath burn against your people whom you brought forth from the land?" So Moses is still connecting with God. God is saying, I am super upset with everybody, and so I'm cutting them off. We're done. In the conversation, okay? And Moses says, I hear what you're saying. I'm not really excited about this myself, but we're still with you here. Okay? So, Moses sought the favor of the Lord and said, "Lord, why does your wrath burn against your people whom you have brought forth from the land of Egypt with great power, with a mighty hand," right? Mighty right arm, right, mighty right hand. "Why should the Egyptians speak, saying, with evil intent he brought them out to kill them in the mountains and destroy them from the face of the earth?" So he's basically saying, if you kill them now, the Egyptians who get word of this, somebody's going to send an email or something, whatever. But eventually they would get back to the Egyptians, and they're going to say, why? Okay, so they escaped / we let them go. All these things happened. They wandered out in the wilderness, and then they're all just dead? What kind of story is that? That's crazy. So Moses says, God, please don't let that be the story that gets back to the Egyptians. You're the one who conquered them through the plagues and the crossing of the Red Sea, etc., etc. Don't let that be the story. Turn from your fierce wrath and relent of this harm against your people. Remember, he's connecting your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. That's another. Remember, he renamed Jacob Israel. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants to whom you swore by yourself. And you said to them, I will multiply your descendants as the stars of the heavens, and all this land that I have spoken of will I give to your descendants, and they will inherit it forever. So he's reminding God of the covenant that God set up with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so here we see the Lord, verse 14, relented of the harm which he said he would do to his people. Moses reminded him. He had a conversation. There's a relationship there.
Like, did you forget, or was he just testing Moses?
There you go. I think A, he was testing Moses, and B, he was trying to determine if it was getting through, right? Down there, it obviously hadn't gotten through. But with Moses, no. I'm here with you. I know you're upset. Let's not go through this thing. Let's do this together. It's your people. Remember, I'm here with you, with your people. Let's do this thing. And so Moses, verse 15, turned and went down the mountain with the 2 tablets of testimony in his hand. The tablets were written on both of their sides, and they were written on one side and on the other. And the tablets were God's work, and the writing was God's writing engraved on the tablets. So God wrote these tablets. Or Moses did it under God's supervision. Like, I'm not 100% sure because it could go both ways. We talked about that a little bit before. But it's definitely God narrating at minimum and God writing at maximum, right? When Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said to Moses, so Moses is coming down to that plain where Joshua has been waiting, okay? And it says here that when Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said to Moses, sounds like war down there in the camp. Sounds like they're having a battle down there. But Moses said, it's not the sound of those who shout for victory, nor is it the sound of those who cry because of being overcome, like they're being beat up or being, killed. I hear the sound of singing. Verse 19, as soon as he came near the camp, he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moses' anger burned. And he threw the tablets from his hands and shattered them at the bottom of the mountain. So here we have Moses. He's carrying these tablets down, and we don't know exactly what size they were. Yeah, and that's an artist rendering of him doing that. The old Mel Brooks, I can't remember what movie that was. The Mel Brooks, when he's like, God gives us these 10 commandments. Anyway, but yeah, yes.
So when they left Egypt, that's when they were giving them all their gold and stuff?
Yes.
So they melted that into this calf? Is that what
yes.
the calf came about?
Yes. And we're not done with that. I'm glad you brought that up because we're going to talk about that in chapter 33, which is coming up in just a minute. So we literally now see that Moses has just destroyed the commandments, the law. All right? Now, I want you to think about something with me for a second. Moses has not been a part of this. He didn't ask them to do this. He didn't hope that they would do this. I'm wondering if in his wildest imagination they would ever think that this was something that would happen. I'm thinking Moses and Joshua are just kind of, what in the world are these people doing, man? And he just gets so mad because I just had this conversation with God and I'm telling him, no, don't take your wrath. It's your people. Come on, we're with you. And then he goes down there and he's like, sure enough, are you kidding me? There's a calf down here.
So now it's his responsibility.
Yes. Yeah.
Not to mention, I just broke the tablets.
And I just broke the tablets. Moses said to Aaron, right? So you be like, you can see Aaron being like, worship this calf. Oh, Moses, hi, you're back.
Nothing to see here.
I didn't. Yeah. welcome to camp. We have a golden calf now. Moses says to Aaron in verse 21, what did this people do to you, that you have brought so great a sin upon them? So he understands that maybe Aaron's not the sole responsibility here. Now, he is the high priest, so they came to him as the high priest to do a priestly worshipful thing. But Moses, I think, reads between the lines because, listen, they've been marching through the desert. And you know you're going to have people, when you got 1 to 3 million people marching through a desert, you're going to have the people who are like, hey, Aaron, I really think you could probably do a better job than Moses. Oh, why are we going this direction? We'd be a lot faster if we went around this direction, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure Moses is quite aware of the possible dissenters in the group, the troublemakers, people, the Harveys in the group.
Very funny.
And so he says, what did these people do to you that you then turned around and thought this was a good idea? Are you out of your mind? And Aaron said, do not let the anger of my Lord, lowercase l, my boss, don't let the anger of my Lord burn. You know that the people are set on evil. This is very reminiscent of, let me finish this, I'll get it. Make a God for us, which will go before us. For this Moses, the man that brought us from the land of Egypt, we don't know what happened to him. And I said to them, whoever has any gold, let them break it off. And so they gave it to me. And then I threw it into the fire, and this calf just came out.
I mean, it disappeared.
It just, I don't know, man. It's just, I just threw this and melted this gold in there, and then just boom, this calf
Funny,
just.
that's exactly what it says. He's like, then they gave me the gold, and I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf.
And out came this calf.
He's totally like throwing blame off of himself. Like,
Yes.
I threw the gold in the fire.
And you know what this is reminiscent of? This is reminiscent of the garden with Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve saying it was her. It was the snake. It was the woman. It was the snake.
That's right. And he said, Adam, where are you? She did it.
It's this woman you gave me.
That's right. Eve, you got it. No, snake. The snake did it. So we see this passing the buck thing going on there. So let's see here. And I threw it in, and a calf came out. I don't know what to tell you. Now, when Moses saw the people were in a frenzy, for Aaron had let them completely out of control, causing derision from their enemies, then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, whoever is on the Lord's side, come to me. And all the Levites gathered themselves together around him. So this is where we see now the Levites, they really kind of rally around Moses. And the line of Levi after this, they become the priests working with Aaron in the temple. And so when they give out the land, if you go back earlier in our study, you can scroll down the website, there's a map that talks about where the tribes of Israel, their different plots of land are. Levi doesn't get a plot. Levites don't get a plot because they are spread out amongst all the other tribes because they work at the church, basically. So the church staff. And it's because of this moment that happens. Okay, Exodus 32:26 is why that happens. So let's go to 27. Moses said to them, thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, every man fasten his sword on his side. So mount up and put your 6-shooter on your side. And go back and forth from gate to gate throughout the camp, and let every man kill his brother, and every man his friend, and every man his neighbor. And the Levites did according to the word of Moses, and about 3,000 men of the people died that day. I'm going to guess it probably wasn't a random 3,000. I think if we look back to the context, it said, what did these people do to you that then you decided this was a good idea, Aaron? Were you coerced into this? Who are the instigators? And I'm pretty sure the Levites went through and just took out the instigators. Okay? About 3,000. Verse 29. For Moses had said, consecrate yourselves today to the Lord, that he may bestow a blessing on you for this day, for every man opposes his son and his brother. On the next day, Moses said to the people, you have committed a great sin, and now I will go up to the Lord, and perhaps I can make atonement for your sin. I can make it right with God, is what he's saying. So Moses returned to the Lord. Remember, they're going up the mountain, down the mountain, up the mountain, down the mountain. So he's back up the mountain again. Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Oh, this people has committed a great sin and have made a god of gold for themselves. Yet now, if you will, forgive their sin. But if not, I pray, blot me out of your book which you have written." So he's saying, listen, please forgive them. But if you're not going to forgive them, then don't forgive me too, because I'm one of them. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot him out of my book. So go now, lead the people to the place of which I have spoken to you. Indeed, my angel will go before you, and nevertheless, in the day when I punish, I will indeed punish them for their sin." And the Lord plagued the people because they had made the calf, the one that Aaron made. So, finishing chapter 32, we see that God says, I'm going to punish them. It's coming, and it may be in different ways, but just know that sin's going to be punished. Now, he didn't say, "Get away from me, I don't know you anymore." They are still his people. But he's saying, the things that I asked you not to do, you guys immediately did those things. I'm hurt. I'm not real happy. And sin has a consequence. We can go all the way back to Romans in the New Testament, where it says, the wages, what you earn because of your sin, is death. What do I earn from sinning? I earn death. So he's basically saying that in the Old Testament. He's saying what you earn here is death. And so that's how we end chapter 32. So I'm gonna take a break here and get a glass of water, and then we'll get on chapter 33. You getting woozy again?
Oh yes, it's starting to go away now.
He gets those dizzy spells.
Thought I would be able to make it without. I didn't. I'm coming back now.
Well, don't fall over.
I'm right here if you die. I got you, old fella.
That's the devil on me, is this dizziness. I can't figure out. I can't find it out and tell me why.
He's been the neurologist. He's been the ear, nose, and throat. He's been all sorts of people. They can't figure out what.
That old devil's just messing with you.
Right, done it. Is that? I hate to be the person that throws the only piece of trash.
No. Throw that in there. It's not like you're putting in like fast food bag or something that's gonna get stinky. It's just a can. Huh?
There's a trash can.
Yeah, there's another one over here. We got trash cans all over the place. Well, there's one right there behind you. And we can just take the liner out if you're going to. Actually,
Throw up on me on the sock.
hey, just go ahead and get it so that way it's right there.
Yeah, so that was the first thing I noticed on the golden calf. The serpent's on the top.
Yeah.
Above the cow. It had something to do with making that calf, that's for sure.
So-
But it's a neat looking.
Hathor is the female goddess, and then there's Api, who would be the cow, but it doesn't matter. Like they're and I'm about to get into chapter 33 here, so we'll talk about it. All right, chapter 33. We just finished up chapter 32, and Moses is really pleading on behalf of the Hebrew people, the Israelites, to extinguish God's wrath that he has put on them because they've earned that wrath, right? The wages of sin is death. So, chapter 33, verse 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Depart, go up from here," so get away from the Mount Sinai, okay? "Go up from here, and the people whom you have brought up from the land of Egypt, to the land which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, to your descendants I will give it." So he's saying, go from here and go to Israel, the land of Israel. That's the one I promised Abraham a long time ago. He's saying, get up and go to that land. "To your descendants I will give it. And I will send an angel before you, and I will drive out the Canaanite, Amorite, Hittite, Perizzite, Hivite, and the Jebusite." So there's going to be an angel that is going to go beforehand. It says drive out, but the literal translation there is to prepare the way for you to take them out. So when we see later, we're going to get into. We're not going to do it in the study right now, but when you see later when they get into Joshua, when Joshua takes over from Moses and they start attacking these little city-states, the Amorites, the Hivites, all these people, they're weakened to the point where the Israelites just take them out, take them out, take them out, take them out. As a matter of fact, one of the most famous ones is Jericho. They had this walled city that was like 20 to 40 foot walls, and they were like 20 foot thick walls, so you can't penetrate through them. And God said, remember, and right here, we just saw in chapter 33, I'm sending an angel before you to prepare the way. So when they got there, they just marched around 7 times. And then on the 7th day, they marched 7 times and blew their horns, and they had the city. So it wasn't anything that the Israelites were doing to make these victories. The angel had already gone beforehand and prepared the way for them. They just had to be obedient. Okay? Now, there was some fighting and whatever, but they had to be obedient in going and doing it. But we're not going to be in Joshua. We're in Exodus still. So, verse 3, 33, verse 3. Go up to a land flowing with milk and honey. And they're in the middle of the desert, so that sounds pretty good too, right? I will not go up in your midst, for you are a stiff-necked people and might destroy you on the way. So he's saying, for your own protection, because y'all are such stiff-necked people,
Different than redneck?
I'm gonna
yeah,
let you go alone so I don't kill you.
I'm going to let you guys go on ahead. I will not go there because
Right.
I might end up just taking you out. Yeah.
Because when we get there, you're gonna see something.
Yes.
You're gonna see some.
So God's kind of talking smack a little. I mean, he's not, but he's basically like, you know what? It's better that I don't go because I'm going to take you out. Verse 4. When the people heard this disturbing word, they mourned, and no one put on his ornaments. For the Lord said to Moses, say to the children of Israel, you are stiff-necked people. If I went up among you for one moment, I might destroy you. Now therefore take off your ornaments, so that I may know what I will do to you. The children of Israel stripped themselves of their ornaments by Mount Horeb. Now remember, Mount Horeb is one of the peaks that's connected to Mount Sinai. Good question. That's what we're going to talk about.
All right.
The ornaments, I don't have pictures on there right now, but the ornaments are the earrings, the necklaces, the rings, the headdresses, etc., that they took when they left Egypt. They were basically saying, we were effectively Egyptian, but we weren't genetically Egyptian. And we know about the Egyptian gods. And now we have all these fancy gold earrings and rings and necklaces and whatever that celebrates all these gods. And so now we look the part. And God's saying, guys, I don't know how else I have to tell you this. You don't belong there anymore. I took you out of there. Get rid of it. And so he's saying here,
The mindset.
yes, they still have that mindset of being Egyptian. And so,
It's hard in their defense when that's all you know.
100%. I'm not saying that we wouldn't do the same thing. But now looking back at it, we got hindsight. We got 20/20 hindsight, right? I mean, we could tell that's clearly silly. But in the meantime, they're like, hey, they gave us all this stuff. I'm going to wear it. This is high class. This is Saks Fifth Avenue. You know, this is whatever. I'm used to wearing Walmart jewelry, and this is the high end stuff. This is, you know, this is Tiffany's or whatever.
They're being materialistic.
Yes. And so God was like, not only are you being materialistic, but the stuff that's symbolized on those things is worshiping other gods. I don't want that. Take it off. And so the children of Israel stripped themselves of their ornaments by Mount Horeb. Okay? So we see them now making a good decision finally. So let's go to verse 7. Moses took the tent and pitched it outside the camp. Which tent? Tabernacle.
Yeah. That's the meaning.
The tent of meeting, right? And he took it and he put it outside of the camp. Why do you think he put the tent of meeting outside of the camp? Originally, and I have a picture on there on the website. I can't remember how far back I put it. But originally, the tent of meeting was supposed to be right here, facing east, right? And then around on these sides, arrayed in a cross pattern, would be the 12 tribes. So you'd have 1 camp, 2 camp, 3 camp, 1 camp, 2 camp, 3 camp.
Oh yeah, we got that.
So this is the way that he asked them to set up camp around the tent of meeting. But because of this interaction and God saying, if I do show up among your midst, I might take you out, Moses has said, you know what? I'm going to take this tent of meeting and I'm going to set it up outside of the camp. Why do you?
Y'all's protection.
That's right. He's like, I'm going to go ahead and set this up out here. You guys still do this formation whole thing, but like we're going to take this potential threat because of your sin, and we're going to put it right out there. Okay, so a good distance from camp, and called it the tent of meeting. And anyone who sought the Lord would go out to the tent of meeting, which was outside the camp. So whenever Moses went out to the tent, all the people would rise up and stand, every man at the entrance of his tent. And so this is what he's saying. Every man who's at the entrance of his tent. So all the families and clans that were here, and the Benjamins and the whatever, all the different clans, you know, Moses, as he's walking by, well, they could see, you know, he's walking out to the tent. So they would rise up and stand, every man at the entrance of his tent, and gaze after Moses until he entered the tent. They're like, uh-oh, he's going in there. Oh, what's going to happen? Because remember, God was really upset with us. So what's going to happen when he goes in there? Now you can understand now why they're like staring at him like, oh, he's going in. Okay, he's in there. Okay, please. And whenever Moses entered the tent, the pillar of cloud descended and stood at the entrance of the tent, and the Lord spoke with Moses. So here we see God, he will actually come down. So we've got the tent of meeting now is out here, right? And so we see the cloud will come down and talk to Moses. So they see this. They're seeing. Remember, they watched him walk into the. I mean, let's go back. They would rise up and stand, every man at the entrance of his tent, and gaze after Moses until he entered the tent. So they were able to watch him walk into the tent. And then this pillar of smoke would arrive at the entrance of the tent, and the people are sitting there watching. What do you think is going through their heads? They're probably going, oh man, please don't smite us. Please don't take us out. And when all the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance of the tent, all the people rose up and worshipped, every man at the entrance of his tent. The Lord spoke to Moses face to face, just as a man speaks to his friend. That's interesting. Let's look at that wording again. Verse 11, chapter 33, verse 11. The Lord spoke to Moses face to face, just as a man speaks to his friend.
Nobody's seen his face.
So how could they see something how could Moses see something that he's never seen before?
On the cloud.
Perhaps, and this is just Brad talking, perhaps this was the presence of Jesus in the cloud that he was talking to face to face.
But nobody else was.
Well, Jesus is the only God that has a face. So.
That we know of.
No, we don't.
Because we're made in God's image, but I mean, what exactly does that mean exactly? I don't know. So the Lord spoke to Moses face to face, just as a man speaks to his friend. When he returned to camp, his servant Joshua, the son of Nun, a young man, did not depart from the tent. So Joshua was getting extra time in there worshiping. Verse 12, Moses said to the Lord, see, you say to me, bring up this people, and you have not let me know whom you will send with me. Yet you have said, I know you by name, and you have also found grace in my sight. Now therefore I pray you, if I have found favor in your sight, show me now your way, that I may know you, and that I may find favor in your sight. Consider too that this nation is your people. So here we see Moses going to bat for the people again. He's not saying, hey, they stink, man. Those people they're terrible. How about you and I? Let's do this thing. He could totally stand up and become a tyrant or, selfish or whatever, but he's going to bat for the people again. And God said, my presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. So this is the first time that I have seen God say he's going to give somebody rest. And in Moses' case, I'm hoping that leads to him not having to go up and down the mountain as much. But he says he's going to give him rest. Rest from what? Rest from carrying those burdens.
Of everyone's sin.
Yeah. Carrying the burden of everyone's sins. I'm going to give you rest. My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. And then he said to him, because remember, that's what this whole tabernacle setup was about, where you could go into the presence of God and atone for those sins. So he's basically saying, I was not going to go over here because I'm so mad, but Moses, you keep just stepping up for the people. And so, yeah, I'm going to go here. My presence, I'm going to be with you. And I'm going to give you some rest. I'm going to take that off of you. And then Moses said to God, if your presence does not go with us, do not bring us up from here. So he's saying, if you don't go with us, then we're not going to leave. Because remember, God said, you don't want me with you because I may take you out. So Moses is saying, no, it's the opposite. We want to go where you are. If you're not going to lead us and take us where someplace, then we're staying right here. For how will it be known that I have found favor in your sight, I and your people? Remember, bringing people in there. Is it not by your going with us, so that we will be distinguished, I and your people, from all the people who are on the face of the earth? So he's saying, how will we know? How will other people see that we're your chosen people if you don't choose to be with us? I mean, are you just going to make this up? I mean, are we pantomiming? What are we doing? Like, we have to have you with us. It doesn't work without you, God. You started this whole thing. You put a bush up there and called me up there. Now it's me and my people and your people. We're all together. We're all hooked up. So here we see Moses being very covenantal is the word I'll use. Because he is saying, regardless of what they've done, I'm with them. And regardless of what you're doing or going to do or say you're going to do, I'm with you. We're together. I'm in this regardless. The Lord said to Moses, I will do this thing of which you have spoken, for you have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name. So we see this interaction with God where he knows Moses personally. And he says, Mike, man, you really did stand up for the people. It's not about you trying to create your own power, your own power struggle here. You're really trying to just lead the people to worship me. And they're the ones that are screwing up, but wow, this is awesome. And he said, wow, Moses, this is great. Yeah, let's do what you said. Let's do that. That's a great idea. And then Moses said, I pray, show me your glory. Because remember, inside here, excuse me, was where that glory of God was going to show in that on top of the Ark of the Covenant. So he's like, let's do this thing. Show me your glory. Can we do it? Come on, man. I'm ready. Don't hold back on me. Then he said, I will make all my goodness pass before you. So God is talking to Moses again. I will make all my goodness pass before you, and I will proclaim the name of the Lord before you. I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious. I will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. He said, you cannot see my face, for no man can see me and live. So hold on. That's a famous passage, which no man can see my face. A lot of people know that, but right before that, I want you to look at this. Yeah, no, let's go back to verse 19, though. He says, I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious.
Basically, I'll do what I want.
And I will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. You haven't talked yourself out of the consequences of the sin, but I'm still with you. Just like children. I told the child, don't climb out of your bed and sneak out of your room and go eat candy out of the kitchen. But you did it. There's a consequence to that. You're still my child. That doesn't change. But there's a consequence for your bad choice. You're grounded, or you get a spanking, or whatever it is you do at your house, okay? And so he's saying, you're my children. Yeah, you are my people. Yeah, let's do this thing. There's still going to be some some consequences over here. I'm going to be gracious when I be gracious. I'm going to be merciful when I be merciful. But, yeah, let's do this. Verse 21. Then the Lord said, indeed, there is a place by me. Stand on the rock. And while my glory passes by, I will put you in the cleft of the rock. I will cover you with my hand while I pass by, and then I will take away my hand, and you will see my back, but my face will not be seen. So he's saying, you know what? Maybe I can show you a little bit, just a little bit of that glory. It won't be my face because it would totally rock your world. You wouldn't be able to handle that. But you can see my back.
If anyone ever saw his face, they'd be hounding that guy like a superstar, wanting to know what his face looked like, and just harassing to death. So.
Well, and furthermore, we see a connection here when Jesus goes up on the mountain before his trial and crucifixion and all that stuff. He goes up on the mountain and he reveals his godliness, his glory. And they call that the transfiguration. The Gospels talk about it. And it's Peter and James and John, I think, that are ones that are up there. And Peter says, wow. And I think Elijah was there, and Elisha, or Moses and Elijah. I can't remember who. There's some people there. And Peter's like, this is awesome. Like, we should build like three little like tabernacles, three little churches that we can worship right here. Well, we don't have to leave this mountain ever again. And Jesus says, no. That was just a glimpse. Jesus says, that was just a glimpse of what I've got.
You don't want to leave because you felt the glory of God.
But it was just this much. And that's basically what he's doing here. He's saying, you know what? I'm going to give you a little something. I'm going to give you a little glimpse. It's going to be just enough that you can handle. But you can't handle the whole thing. You can't handle it. So, next week we'll go into chapter 34, and we're going to talk about the new tablets and Moses having to cover his face because of his interaction with God. So, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. See you next time.